Hi, today I want to compare two top-of-the-line FPV analog goggles. This is the Skyzone 04X Pro, and this is the Fatshark HD0 Plus. I haven't seen a lot of reviews on the HD0 Plus, and that is why I decided to make this video. Both goggles have their pros and cons, but both have full HD resolution, 16:9 and 4:3 view modes, AV and HDMI inputs. And both can be powered by 2S to 6S batteries, or you can do what I do and use a USB-C power bank with a USB-C to DC 12 volt trigger cable. Let's go into detail about some features. The Skyzones have a 52-degree field of view, while the Fatsharks have only a 50-degree field of view. You might be thinking, 50 is a lot less than 52, so therefore the Skyzones must be great. That wide field of view must be super awesome, super immersive. However, let me tell you, the 52-degree field of view is the biggest downfall of the Skyzone goggles, and let me tell you why. When I'm looking through the Skyzone goggles, this is what I see. It looks like I'm looking through two toilet paper tubes. The edges of the screen are cut off, or the center of the screen is cut off. When I adjust it so I can see the edges of the screen, the center is cut off, and when I adjust it so I can see the center of the screen perfectly, the edges are cut off. It looks exactly like two lenses trying to be put together. I can't see a complete image. I can't see the entire screen perfectly fine. I think that is the biggest downfall of these goggles. That wide field of view, it just kind of looks like this to me. For you, it might be different. For my eyes, for my face, it's not ideal. However, the 50-degree field of view on the Fatsharks are completely ideal for me. I can see a perfect picture. I can see the edges of the screen. I can see the center of the screen perfectly fine. Yes, it is two lenses. However, the image looks like a complete image. It looks like one image. These two lenses being put together forms a complete picture. And that is ultimately why I prefer these Fatsharks. However, the story doesn't end there. As I said, both have their pros and cons. The field of view is a con of these Skyzones. However, the DVR is much better than the Fatshark goggles. You see online, people say, oh, Fatshark goggles have a really bad DVR, the Skyzones have a much better DVR, but they never say why. Let me go into detail and explain why that is. As you can see, the colors on the Fatshark aren't really as bright as on the Skyzone. The resolution is a little bit lower on the Fatsharks as well. Skyzone has a much more defined image in the DVR. The colors on the Skyzone I do think pop and are more vibrant. The Fatshark, it kind of looks more dark, grayish, flat, and there's a reason for this. Let's look at the exact reasons for why this is. However, let me tell you, the picture that you see in the actual goggles is the exact same. This is only the DVR. In the Fatsharks, you can see that the resolution is a step lower than on the Skyzone. The Fatshark has 640 by 480, while the Skyzone has 720 by 480. The frame rate on the Skyzone is also higher, but the most important thing to note is the color space. On the Fatsharks, it's using what's called Rec 601, and on the Skyzone, it's using Rec 709 color space. 709 is a much more modern color space, while the 601 color space is much older and is really meant for CRT monitors. So I think that's a big issue with why the DVR on the Fatshark is a lot less quality than on the Skyzone. Remember, the image that you see in the goggles is the exact same, and this can all be solved using an external DVR. I don't like using internal goggle DVRs because if I need to quickly show spectator some video. Like if I lose a drone and they need to help me find it, then it's much easier to show them an external DVR than putting the goggles on their face and trying to get them to see it that way. So I prefer an external DVR anyway. To go into more detail about the Skyzone 04X Pros, the foam on here is very comfortable. I get a perfect fit around my face. However, the clips for the faceplate, it does come with two faceplates. You might have a little light, right here. You might have a little light leakage from those. However, some electrical tape can easily fix that, but also it's not really problematic. Get a little fan on top. I did buy the Skyzone antennas, which I thought were pretty good. The buttons, it's got these roller buttons on the side. This button is for the DVR. However, I found it really annoying to be on the left side because I often, there goes my, exactly like that. It didn't tighten that fully. When I try to hit the DVR button with these in my face, I often hit the antenna. However, in the menus, you can switch the scroll wheels and the buttons to the other side, which you might want to do, especially if you're using the DVR button on these goggles instead of an external DVR. This scroll wheel is for selecting a channel and frequency, and you can push it in to do an auto search. However, because the frequency selection and auto search are pretty much the same button, I've accidentally done an auto search after I selected the frequency I wanted. So I get my frequency and then I'm trying to exit the menu, and instead of pushing this button, I click this button and it just goes back to auto search, and I have to do the whole process over again. So which is kind of annoying because, you know, these are not labeled in any way. Over here is for a source selection, so you can choose AV or HDMI input, and also the different modes for the Skyzone Steady View module. It has a different modes in here. For me, these two buttons and the scroll wheel, they click. I think it's kind of fiddly because they're unlabeled, and I always forget which scroll wheel does what. And I remember one time I recorded something in the DVR and I wanted to replay it, so I go to the playback menu and I'm trying to figure out which scroll wheel to use, which button to click to play it or fast forward, and I accidentally deleted the video. I wish the menu is pretty good, but I just don't really like the I can't say this word, ambiguity of these scroll wheels and buttons. And one thing about the DVR button is, yes, I always hit the antennas when I try to click it, but when you want to turn on the DVR and record, you have to hit it. You have to hit it twice. First, you push it to bring up the little status bar menu, and then you push it again to start recording. That can be kind of annoying, I think. It's the same for stopping. You have to push it once to bring up the status bar on the top of the screen, and then you have to push it again to stop recording. The strap is replaceable because you can see when I pull this back, you can see there is a little space so you can take this off. Speaking of this side, the power button is right here. You do have to hold it a fair number of seconds to turn it off, which is kind of annoying. It's a very small power button. I wish it was bigger. I wish it was like the Fatshark's, which was quite big, but it does the job. It lights up, looks nice. Now onto the Fatshark goggles. I really like these goggles, and I think these are the goggles I'm going to keep, mostly because of that field of view issue I talked about with the Skyzones. Here I get a complete picture, and that looks whole. What I really like about these also is this power button. This is a big power button. It's very easy to feel when it's on my face. As soon as I'm done flying and I landed and I want to turn off the goggles, I can find this really easy without any much fiddling. I don't need to hold it down. I just gotta push it once and it turns off. Super easy. It's not as many inputs on the bottom as on the Skyzones. It's kind of simpler that way. Does have the mini HDMI here and a headphone jack. The lens adjustment is one unified little button here, so you can turn these and push these back and forth, and I get a really good complete image when I adjust these. I don't need to fine-tune it so much just to not get a annoying view as I do with the Skyzones. Here it's very easy to adjust it so you get a complete field of view. AV out on the sides right here, and the power is also on the sides. I use a USB-C power bank with a 12-volt trigger cable. You can get those on Amazon for pretty cheap. The buttons, unlike the Skyzones, are actually labeled, which is super helpful. The DVR button is right here, which is on the correct side, because if you're putting your hand up to the goggles with the goggles on your face, and if the DVR was over here, like on the Skyzones, so many times with the Skyzones I just hit these antennas and kind of loosen the antennas by trying to hit the DVR button. Here the DVR button is right here. You just push it once and it records. No double press needed like on the Skyzones. Very easy channel selector right here if you want to do that, because these modules do interface with the software inside the goggles. So, you know, any kind of standard module, you could adjust the frequency like that. However, I bought it with the SpeedyB module. I don't think they sell rapid fires anymore, but the SpeedyB is quite good. I can very easily adjust it right here and see what frequency I'm on the screen. Skyzone Steady View has no screen, has no button, everything is internal to the software. I like things that are modular. Modular is good for me. So I like having this module I can easily take in and out. I like having the button here, the screen here. It's kind of, I can have it like separated from the software of the goggles. I'm not dependent on the operating system of the goggles for this module to work correctly. The fan, it is one speed. You cannot change the speed. However, it's not so annoying. This fan speed isn't really so annoying. It also has, I think this is a new addition for the HD0 Plus. You can put an extra strap through here so it goes over your head for extra support. It's not really needed though. It stays on my face well enough. It's pretty light. It doesn't fall down. As for the fit on the face, it doesn't have different face plates. However, these are really, really comfortable, and it fits pretty well on my face. I do, however, get a little light leakage on the bottom. I guess it's just the face shape that I have, my nose shape. But I get like a couple millimeters of light coming in from the bottom. However, I think some aftermarket foam would solve that problem. And I'm pretty sure, you know, due to the popularity of Fatshark goggles, aftermarket foam is probably readily available. The lenses aren't so recessed in the goggle like they are in the Skyzone, and I think that's one of the reasons why I get such a complete whole image with these Fatsharks, is the lenses aren't so recessed. Now, one of the nicer things of the Skyzone goggles versus the Fatshark goggles is you can control the fan speed. You can make it go really fast to the max, or you can make it quieter by bringing it down. With the Fatshark goggles, they only have one speed, and that's max speed. With the Skyzone goggles, you can adjust it to any level that you like. It has different ports on the bottom. It's got a headphone jack, AV jack. I really like having the micro SD card right here. On the Fatsharks, the micro SD card is right there. I don't know why they would put it right here. Well, they'd put it right there because the board for the DVR is sitting on the top right here. But that is super annoying to have to try to put a micro SD card right in there. However, the DVR on the Fatsharks really suck, and I would prefer to use an external DVR on that. It does have a USB-C power input. I don't know if it has any other function, maybe for updating firmware. However, most people would use this for power. However, Skyzone, even on their own website, does not recommend using the USB port for power. The reason is because USB-C can take all sorts of voltages and amps and wattages. However, this particular port is straight up 5 volts, like a normal USB port. And these goggles operate at a higher voltage than 5 volts. So when you're using 5 volts here, it has to up the amperage to get the same amount of power. And Skyzone recommends not using this because that upped amperage from this port will heat up the internals of the goggle quicker. So I don't know why they would include a USB-C port, but then also not recommend using it. You can hear how loud the fan is right now. That cannot be changed. However, I don't find it much of a problem. I am using the Skyzone cable, though, which comes out this way. The actual XT60 cable that comes with the Fatsharks. It is 90 degrees, so it doesn't stick out far like this. The menu on the Fatsharks is a lot simpler than on the Skyzone. Let me turn this off. Easy button. That's all I do. The menu on the Fatsharks is a lot simpler than on the Skyzones. It's so easy, like anyone can figure it out. And I like that about the Fatsharks. The menu is very simple. There's no fiddling with switches. The switches are labeled. I really like these goggles, and I think these are the goggles I'm gonna keep. The Skyzones do come with a fake leather also, but I prefer the foam. However, this foam, the glue is not very strong. I know it's a minor issue, but I always find this coming off. You can probably get some aftermarket glue and put that on more securely. For me, it's always falling off. And these are the adjustments for the lenses. However, as I said before, I can never get these adjusted properly so I can see a complete single image in my view. Now this is the Skyzone SteadyView 3.3 module. You can see the module bay on the Skyzones right there. It is a very exacting fit in this module bay. Very exacting fit. The module bay is smaller than the Fatsharks by far. The pinouts on the back of it are exactly the same as any other Fatshark module. So you might think, I don't want to use this SteadyView module. I want to use, I don't know, some module like this, another Fatshark type module. Pinouts exactly the same. The 5 volts is the same. The ground is the same. The video is the same. However, no other module will fit in the module bay. All other modules are just too big. So, a lot of people, they have made some adapters. I'll show you some photos, some crazy looking janky kind of adapter kind of things. I've even tried it with some wires, connecting some PCB breadboard wires to these pins and then attaching the breadboard wires to here, and yes, it does work perfectly fine. You do have to switch it to third-party module in the goggle menus though. However, you're not going to be able to get any other module to fit inside here without some kind of 3D printed janky adapter. Now, Skyzone does make an adapter, however, it doesn't really interface with these. It interfaces with the AV input. I don't know why they would do that. It's just extra jankiness. But you can very easily 3D print something that uses one of these 9-pin, like I think they're called raster connections, that just simply brings it out brings it out here. It will be sticking out a bit, but it's a lot better than having the Skyzone audio input adapter. You can see the size difference. You can see the size difference here. The Skyzone module is a lot smaller. I don't know why they made the module bay so small, even though these pinouts do exactly the same. I have tried to use this module on the Fatshark goggles because the pins are exactly the same. However, the only way I could set the channel, set the frequency, is by first setting it in the Skyzone module and then placing this in the Fatshark module, because there's no external button on this. Unlike this one and other Fatshark modules that have some kind of frequency selector button, this has no button whatsoever. Everything is done in the software of the Skyzone goggles. Now, if you want to use these goggles but a different RF module, and you want to embrace the jank, go ahead. This does work. If you want to research the pinouts of this Fatshark type of module situation, go ahead, do that. However, just note that every module you find online is going to be bigger than the SteadyView module. These are quite small. But it does work, as you can see. It is powered on. I am getting image, however I'm not connected to a drone right now. But it does work. So if you want to 3D print something, you want to do some little engineering, make a little mount, embrace the jank, be my guest, you can do that. However, I've learned that the SteadyView module, the Skyzones are really made for the SteadyView. I wouldn't use it with an external module because all the menu interfaces in here kind of expect this SteadyView module, because you'll see when you enter the menus they talk about mix mode 1, mix mode 2, SteadyView mode, and having an aftermarket module is kind of an afterthought from Skyzone. So I would just stick with the SteadyView module. Well, I hope I helped you decide which of the two goggles to get. Thank you for watching the video, and see you in the skies. Bye.